You are listening to the Get Global Network podcast of Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, hosted by Lawrence Coutee. You can hear Whole Mind, Body, and Soul Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific Time on Yessurr-FM, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network.
Love, peace, and light. You're now tuned into the most inspirational show on a Thursday night, where education through elevation is the goal. You now got it locked into whole mind, body, and soul. I am your host, Lawrence Coutee. I am Ausar Sara. Hope everybody's having a high vibrational week so far as we cruise into the weekends. Man, tonight's show is my first Halloween special. Very excited about tonight's show. It's that time of the year. And this show tonight is all about, we're going to be going over the origins of Halloween, things that bring us about the celebrations of Halloween. We're going to be talking about spirit possession. We're going to be talking about hauntings. We're going to be talking about sex spirits, incubus and succubus. We'll be getting into the zombie apocalypse. How real is that? We're going to get into communicating with spirits and more. So tonight, we're just going to kick back and dive in and really look at this thing. This thing, Halloween, is celebrated not only in America, but throughout the world. So first thing I want to do is look at the origins of Halloween. And a lot of the things that we celebrate here in America, we don't understand where the origins of these types of things come from, such as Halloween, Easter, and even Christmas. So you got to think to yourself, even though something that you've been celebrating all your life, you might not have too much information behind it if you didn't do the research yourself. So we're really going to take a look at that, the origins of Halloween, and then we're going to ease off into the show. But a little bit about the origins of Halloween, since Halloween has its origins dating back to the ancient Celtic festivals. The ancient Celtic festivals was known as Samhain. The Celtics who lived 2,000 years ago in that area, that is now called Ireland in the United Kingdom in northern France, celebrated the new year on November 1st. The day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold, and winter. This time of year was often associated with human death. Celts believed that the night before the new year, the boundary between worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to earth. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, Celts thought that in the presence of the otherworldly spirits, it made it easier for the Druids or Celtic priests to make predictions about the future. For people who entirely depended on volatile, natural information of the world, these prophecies were a very important source of comfort and direction during long, dark winters. To communicate, the Druids would build huge sacred bonfires. The Celtic deities during the celebration, the Celts wore costumes, typically costumes of animal heads, skins, and they attempted to tell each other's fortune. When the celebration was over, they relit their bonfires, which they had extinguished earlier the evening from the sacred bonfire to help protect them during the coming winter. So that's a little bit of history of the origins of how it all began. But how did it come to America? Celebrating Halloween was extremely limited to colonial New England because of the rigid Protestant beliefs, the religious beliefs. So Halloween was much more of a common in the upper states, like in Maryland or the southern colonies. All these beliefs and customs of different European ethnic groups, as well as the American Indians, meshed a directly American version of Halloween As it began to emerge, they began celebrations including plays, parties, and public events held to celebrate the harvest, where neighbors would share stories of the dead, tell each other's fortunes, dance, sing. Colonial Halloween festivities also featured the telling of ghost stories and mischief-making of all kinds. By the middle of the 19th century, annual autumn festivals were common, but Halloween was not celebrated everywhere in the country. So here you go with these costumes, the bonfires, dressing up as ghosts, and most of them would dress up. One of the reasons why they would dress up and how the children began to dress up when they would go out and take on these festivities was so that the ghosts that were walking, or the spirits that are believed to be walking, the children or the people that are celebrating in these rituals would kind of blend in with the dead. So Halloween, again, is not only celebrated in America, it's celebrated throughout the world. And in Mexico, they call it Santa Muerte, which means Day of the Dead. In African culture, the lines get blurred between celebrating the dead or communing with the dead when we're talking about ancestral worship. And we're going to get into that a little bit later about ancestral worship. And we're going to do a show that I was going to do before this show, but we're definitely going to do it because tonight we're going to talk about how do you communicate with spirits that have passed on into the other worlds. But to start it off, I want to say this. After that brief history, after seeing how it's really ingrained itself into the American culture, and how does it ingrain itself into the psyche? Because we all grew up hearing about it, participating, dressing up, going to parties, et cetera, et cetera. But again, a lot of us don't know the origins of where these things came from. Like, say, the pumpkin, for instance. The pumpkin, it wasn't the pumpkin at first. In England, they would actually carve out a lettuce head and put candles and use them as lanterns. That's where you get the term jack-o'-lantern. Later on, during that time, the pumpkin, because here we are in the fall, is plentiful for the harvest, they began to cut out the jack-o'-lantern, the eyes, and make the mouth and make the scary face. They would actually put it in their window, telling people to pass by the house, or even ancient than that, to keep away or ward off evil spirits. Same thing with the pranks and stuff, trick or treat, the parties, bobbing for apples. All of these things have more ancient origins. Again, we do things a lot sometimes and don't realize where did that actually come from. Everything has a beginning, okay? So what we're going to do right now is cruise into what I want to talk about as far as spirit and what we call ghosts, okay? I will say this. Let me go back to the psyche of Halloween and the psyche of ghosts. When we were little, we were always told about the boogeyman. If you do bad, the boogeyman will get you. So as a child, going back to the teachers, mommy, teacher, mommy, daddy, teacher, preacher, these things are ingrained in our psyche, okay? The boogeyman. So at an early age, there's always something for you to fear. There's always something that you're thinking about, being afraid of the dark or something, monsters in my closet, monsters up under my bed. So these things are being ingrained in you at an early age. It is being ingrained in your psyche. Now, one of the main characters when we talk about Halloween is Wolfman, Dracula, and a ghost. I would say Frankenstein, but that's a man making a man to do things, and a man, he couldn't control his monster. That's all Frankenstein's story is. But on a deeper level, let's say Dracula, for instance. Now, most of us are familiarized with the modern-day Dracula coming from Bram Stoker's Dracula, the story of Dracula. And then later on, Anne Rice popularized the Dracula phenomenon of the story. She reintroduced it back into the culture with Interview with a Vampire, and then later on Queen of the Damned, which starred Aaliyah. So the vampire really is more ancient than that because it deals with a mythological creature named Pan. Now, Pan is a creature from the old pagan days. He wears horns, he's half man, and he's half animal. you see him in different things all the time. You might not recognize him, but if you ever see the half man, the centurion, well, this one, Pan is half man, half. He has the body, the torso of a man, but at the bottom he looks like a goat. He has horns on his head. Again, this also is taken where you get the modern day devil or demon, what he's supposed to look like. But Pan was a creature of the forest, a mythological creature of the forest, and Pan was very sexual or erotic. He would actually have sexual intercourse with different deities and beings in the forest. So later on, that would evolve into Dracula, because once you see the Dracula character is dealing with a lot of sexual and eroticism, i.e. the blood. He never has sex with the person, but he's actually taking the blood of a person. He mostly seduces the woman, okay? Or the woman can seduce the man. He's drinking of the blood. The blood represents the lifeline of anything. If the blood represents life. So he's actually sucking the life out of the person, okay? Now, you've heard me on the show talk about psychic vampires. You know, when I say psychic vampires are people that attach themselves to you and they're draining you of your vitality, of your spirit, or they're draining you with negative energy. So I'm talking about the psychic vampire, but in the psyche of the monster, of the creature, of the mythological creature, that's what the mystique does of the vampire. He seduces you, he puts you on a spell, then he drains you of your lifeline, which is your blood. Okay? That's, again, associated with a mythological creature named Pan. And you can do the research on that, because the occult, the hidden of it, it gets a little bit deeper and deeper. Because later on we're going to get in and we're going to talk about the sexual demons, the incubus and the succubus later on. All of these things tie in. When you're dealing with the wolfman, the psyche of the wolfman is half man, half animal, a half woman, half animal that turns into a wolf after the moon. The moon is very powerful. The moon controls the tide. There's a full moon. Every time a full moon is about, people start acting weird, because it is known that the full moon has a pull, a magnetic pull, and control over the human psyche. That's why on a full moon, it's going to be some fights, it's going to be some type of violence, it's going to be some turmoil. So you're making that correlation to how powerful the moon, the pagans back in the day, would always do rituals, or the witch will always do rituals dealing with the new moon cycles, full moon cycles, waxing moon cycles, okay? So the wolf is dealing with the inner man, and he's being controlled, or the beast man, the lower part of him, is emerging. And you can take that in anything in with you. You know, they say, there's an Indian tale that says there's two wolves in each of us, and they're fighting each other, and the one that will win is the one that you feed the most. If you feed your anger all the time, that part of the wolf, you know what I'm saying, is going to dominate your life. So when you see the wolfman is really just saying the animal nature in man that comes out and takes full control, meaning the lower nature of man comes out and he embodies that man. He fully turns into the wolf, and he does this at the full moon. The ghost. Okay, now the ghost, what you know to be a ghost is a spirit, nothing more, nothing less. You got to understand that energy, which is soul and spirit, once it's created, it can never be destroyed because it's energy. So we're talking about death. And when people in ancient cultures, Chinese, the African cultures, or other cultures who understand about their understanding of death is not like us in the West. You know, they will honor their ancestors and they will celebrate the passing, because they understand that even though they're not incarnated in the physical, the spirit has left the body. It left it with a shell, but the spirit lives on. Again, energy that's created can never be destroyed. It only changes form. So we got to understand what death is. Once you understand death, you don't have to fear death. And that's the power when you don't have to fear death, when you really understand that, yes, you were born, you incarnated down here in a soul. You chose this, that, and some teachings, it'll say that you even chose your parents. You chose the situation you would go through in life. And the reason why you're only down here is to go back, do your job, what you're supposed to do, and learn life lessons so you can ascend on a spiritual level, because the journey down here it's all about a spiritual level. Even though we're caught up in the job, the hustle, the bustle, this, that, love, pain, hurt, you're really down here to learn a lesson. Once that lesson is learned, you will leave this body. So ancient people who understand it and people who understand the spiritual side of death understand that there is no such thing as death, that we just shell off one shell and we go somewhere else. We go back to spirit. So when you're talking about spirits and ghosts, that's exactly what it is. You know, what makes it a spirit and a ghost is known as an earthbound spirit. You know, you heard the saying, you know, if you're coming out of Christianity, we all go to heaven. But where do you go before you go to heaven? Do you just sleep in the grave? See, these are things you need to ask your religious leader to really explain to you about death. How it is you leave, you die. I'm going to use the word die so everybody can understand what I'm saying, who don't understand. There is no death, but I'm going to use the word die. When you die, you leave the physical body. But a ghost, now what you define as a ghost is a spirit that has not left the earth plane. The spirit still lingers around. Now the spirit or the ghost will linger around for many different reasons. A person who gets killed instantly, like I said, like say in a car crash. A car crash, when they say he died, it happened quick, and he died fast. He didn't suffer much, or he didn't suffer at all. Okay, he died on impact. What happened was he died, and his soul got snatched out of his body so fast he didn't even realize he was dead. So he died on impact. He died. So he might become a ghost, or she might become a ghost. Why? Because it happened so fast, they don't even believe that they're dead. It's different when someone is dying of an illness. Okay, we brace for that. They're dying. The person knows they're dying. Now they have to accept the fact that they're about to leave. Most of the time, that decision will be made, like they say, go into the light. You know what I'm saying? Go into the light. Once you go into the light, you will leave this third dimension reality. You will leave this earth plane. You don't have to stick around here, okay? A person who dies suddenly for any reason might not know they're dead. Most of the time, a ghost don't know that they're dead. They still think they're alive, because once you leave this body, you still see things as they will be normal to you. You really don't know you're dead. Or the second reason why a ghost or a spirit stays around is they're afraid to leave. Another reason why they're afraid to leave, because they don't know what's waiting for them on the other side. You heard ghost stories or tales of, you know, such and such came and got her. They kept saying before they died, they started talking about their mother or their father or their brother, their sister before they died. They were right in the middle of the living and the dead, and they started talking out of, they say, well, you know, Granny was talking out of her mind because she was calling on Papa and she was calling on Aunt whoever, Uncle John. She kept talking about Uncle John. She's seeing them because Uncle John or the mother are coming for them. These souls that have already left the earth plane usher you into the other side. Basically, they come and get you and usher you and cross you over because they're already there. And they know you don't understand what's going on. You're afraid to leave. I had a great aunt who passed about 2 years ago, and she was talking about her husband. She was talking about her husband, and her husband was saying, my great uncle was saying, come on, I got you. And she held on and held on because she wasn't ready to go with Uncle Mac. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason. A lot of times they hold on because the spirits themselves see you grieving or see loved ones grieving, and they don't want to leave. Another reason why they don't leave or they become earthbound spirits or ghosts is because they love the earth. They love the earthbound plane. Meaning, a person who loved alcohol, that was a drunk, he might not want to leave because he wants to hang out, you know what I'm saying, and be around people who drink. That's why the bar, or anywhere, especially bars could be haunted. We're going to get into that a little later. Haunted places and why spirits still hang around. But back to what I'm saying about the earthbound spirits, is the earthbound spirit doesn't want to leave because it's so caught up into this world, into this reality, because it loves it. This world gives it pleasure. It hang around all his vices and things that the spirit loved to do. If a person loved bingo and they didn't want to leave, they might hang around the bingo hall because, you know, she played bingo 4 or 5 times a week. They love this earth plane and they don't want to leave. Okay? Children a lot of places are haunted with children because children go before the parents and they're lost, especially when there's no one to usher them in. Okay? So right now, I'm just going over what a ghost is, okay, and what makes a ghost. Basically, again, a ghost is just an earthbound spirit that has not made the transition to the higher realm of being on this earth plane, on this third dimensional earth plane, because there's many levels and there's many dimensions. The Bible talks about, and I saw many heavens. That's talking about different dimensions and planes that the spirit has to go back to. Because I tell people all the time, well, you're here, but where did you come from? Well, you really don't know where you came from. Well, I came from heaven. Okay, if you came from heaven, what do you think? If you think you came from heaven, why do you think you're going to hell? Okay? Hell is a mythological place. Speaking of characters, Lucifer, Satan, and the devil are 3 different people. And what religious institutions did, they put all of these figures into one, because you got to ask yourself, where did the picture of someone with some horns and a tail come from? The word hell has its origins in Greek, meaning Hades, or the underworld. Okay? The underworld. And when they died, they believed that you had to go on the boat. And they would put you in a boat, or they would burn you, and they would put 2 coins on your eyelids because you had to pay the ferryman going into the underworld, really going into the underworld, which goes back to Osiris, Lord of the underworld or of death. But the ancients didn't see death as the finality. They just saw it as transformation, going back to the stars or going back to the heavenly realms. And all ancient cultures who understand this, they all have similarities. They understand that there is an afterlife. But going back to the ghost, the earthbound spirit does not want to leave, so it lingers around. Another true story, before I get ready to go to break, I had a neighbor of mine who died about 3 years ago in my apartment where I live. And I would speak to the woman. I didn't know her, but she stayed right up under me. And one day these girls moved in. And for some reason, they were young girls and stuff. They was kicking it. And they was having a couple of drinks one night. So I decided to introduce myself to them. And they invited me in. And I think I had a beer with them. And we were just talking. And one of the girls said, you know what? I don't know. Somehow we got to talking about spirits. And the one girl told me, she says, you know what? I can feel spirits because I feel like something's in this apartment. and I could be sitting on the couch, and I feel like something's watching me. I can feel something in the corner. And then I was like, oh, man, they didn't tell you, huh? And she was like, somebody died in here, didn't they? I said, yep. She says, the woman, you know what I'm saying? Just, it's her house. It's her apartment. And she's still there. When I come back, we're going to get into hauntings. We're going to get into hauntings. As we get into hauntings, we're going to understand that what you call a haunting or a dwelling or a place, again, it's just spirits that dwell in that space, and they don't want to leave because that is their domain. For whatever reason, they don't want to cross over, or they could be just in love with their house, especially if a house was built a long time ago. These are the places that become really more haunting, especially old houses, old hospitals, old this and old that. It still has spirit activity that hangs around. See, what I'm telling you, this show is really, it's educational, because once you understand these things, you really don't have to fear it. And you can go do your research. You can do your research about life after death. Because, again, you need to understand what you call death is not the end. It's not the end. And just because I can't see it, just because you can't see it, doesn't mean it's not real. You don't have to believe in ghosts and spirits. But I guarantee you, someone that's listening to this show right now does. Someone listening to this show right now have seen them. Someone listening to this show have felt them. Some people that listen to this show are empaths. They can communicate with them. We're going to get into that later on at the second part of the show as well. How do you communicate with spirit? So this is the Halloween show. And like I say, a lot of this stuff is education. Because one thing about when you educate yourself, or when you become empowered with knowledge, it frees you and it empowers you. Like my grandmother used to say, don't fear the dead, fear the living. Because ain't nothing that the dead can do to you. That's what she used to say. You become empowered by the knowledge. So the second part of the show, and before I go to break, I'm going to take it up another notch, and we're going to get off into hauntings, possessions, demons, communicating with spirits, and really how to ward off or protect yourself, because they are real. I told you about the ghost story a while ago of my neighbor. Okay? I'm going to tell you some more personal stories that have happened to me. I'm also going to get into the zombies. And I know people think the zombies want to get into zombies. Is zombies real? Could a zombie apocalypse happen? Another question is, what's going on with the killer clowns? How are they popping up everywhere, and why? Why do people have clown phobias? We're going to get into all of that. Right now, you're listening to Whole Mind, Body, and Soul. I'm getting ready to break into the vibration of sound, and I'll be right back.
Listen to the Get Global Network original show, Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, hosted by Lawrence Coutee, on Yessurr-FM, Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Yessurr-FM is one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network.
You're back on Whole Mind, Body, and Soul Halloween special. Tonight we've been going over ghosts. We went over the origins of Halloween. We did research on that. It's very, very extensive, going back ancient origins to the Celtics in Europe and how it came to America. But we're talking about spirits and ghosts. What makes a ghost? A ghost is nothing more than an earthbound spirit that has not crossed over the plane. Again, if your eyes really could see, if someone used to say, if God turned on the light and you could see, you see all types of stuff. And some people actually in church pray for that gift. That's one of the gifts that people pray for. God, give me the gift of sight. And I'm trying to tell you, talk to anyone, a psychic or an empath who feels these things. They'll tell you that's something you don't want. Right now, we're going to talk about hauntings. Now, what is a haunting? A haunting was the spirit, the earthbound spirit, haunts you. It interrupts your well-being, your life. The word poltergeist, when we were young, we came up and there was a movie called Poltergeist about a little girl named Carol Ann. Don't go into the light, Carol Ann. Well, the word poltergeist is in German origin, and poltergeist only means noisy ghost. So you might see a horror movie sometime, and you'll see they leave out the room, and when they come back, they hear something boom, 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 and they come back in, and the doors are open on the cabinet, drawers are out, and these are what we call noisy ghosts. Either you heard it, or a spirit that is a very strong spirit, and a noisy spirit is called a poltergeist, but that means that the paranormal activity, the energy of that earthbound spirit is so strong, for whatever reason, you could be in their house. Hauntings, what type of places constitute hauntings? Hospitals. The word hospital comes from hospice. The word hospital, a hospice is really a place where you go to die. A lot of people don't like going to hospitals, but that's what a hospital is. You know what I'm saying? A lot of hospitals are haunted. A lot of paranormal activity goes on in hospitals. Why? Because you have spirits coming in and leaving all the time. Coming in, being born, leaving, as in dying, okay? Hospitals, prisons. These are people that were locked up for so long. Again, what keeps the earthbound spirit here is that something holds them. They might think they're still in prison. Even though they've died, they've been in prison so long, they stick around in prison. Bars. The alcoholic is going to hang out at the bar because he loves the atmosphere. He gets off. He's feeding off of it, okay? Haunting. Let me tell you something else. A place doesn't have to be haunted, okay? You can be haunted, okay? Now, when I say you can be haunted, meaning that you are sensitive to spirits. You are sensitive to feeling. And a ghost of a person is a psychic or a person is an empath. The reason why the person will be haunted, and I have friends that are empaths. I have friends that talk to them, see them, not only see them and talk to them, but communicate with them and can tell the loved one what they said. And the loved one might be blown away. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories before I get off. So the person can be haunted. If you're haunted, it might not be everywhere you go. If you're running from one apartment to the next and another ghost shows up, and you run from this apartment to another house and this ghost keeps following you, a paranormal activity keeps following you, it's not the place that's haunted, you're haunted. And when I say you're haunted, I mean you are an empath. You are sensitive to spirits. You've always been like this. Ever since you was a little boy and a little girl, you thought you were weird. Everybody thought you was weird. You could see stuff. You didn't want to tell nobody about it because you didn't want them to think you were crazy. The reason why the ghost or the spirit is trying to communicate with you is because you can pick up on the vibration. You can see them or hear them, and they're trying to communicate with you to get you to communicate with someone else. And that's what you call psychic or mediums, Sylvia Brown, and people like that, okay? They can communicate with what you call the dead, okay? These are hauntings. You know, it can happen any place, anywhere, anytime. You see, feel things. Graveyards. There's people that go out to the graveyard, just take pictures, and they see orbs. I have a picture. I'm at a slave memorial, and there's orbs around me. Now, those orbs, some people say, oh, those are just spots. But if you're taking pictures and you look at some of your pictures all the time and you see these round lights, those are spirits that are around you. Now, don't get too freaked out. These spirits, they don't have to be bad or good or anything like that. These spirits could be your ancestors. I'm going to try to get into ancestral, talking about ancestral stuff before I leave, too. So that's hauntings, okay? Now I want to get into something called spirit possession, okay? Where a spirit actually links on to you or links on to someone. Now, the most dominant possession that's in the human psyche, anyone that's born now and has seen the movie, is The Exorcist. One of the most scary movies of all time, hands down. You ain't going to go to sleep. And after watching The Exorcist, you're going to have every light on in the house, okay? That movie freaked you out, especially if you watched it as a child, okay? That's just a form of showing a demon that they classify as a demon from the devil of hell that's actually priests that do perform exorcism. The Roman Catholic Church will not come out on record too much, but if you petition them, they will send out a priest. It's done very secretly, and it's really not in the media now, but they will actually send someone out, and it takes a lot, but they will actually come in and do perform something called an exorcism to take that spirit, okay, out. Now, I didn't even get into spirit. Now since I'm in the spirits, I'm going to talk about light and dark spirits, okay? What you call demons are very dark entities. Dark entities are dark souls that was already here. Okay, they could have been here many times over. Or that person that was hella mean or hella evil is still on an earthbound plane causing hell and havoc. I mean, you got other spirits that are light spirits that are still here, but they're not possessing anyone. How does a person come possessed? Okay, this is very interesting. Why do they call alcohol spirits? You ever thought of that? Why is the word jinn, Jinn, the name of an alcohol, but the word jinn in Arabic means demon? Man, he was on that jinn. He just started acting a fool. He was on that alcohol, man. One minute he was cool. The next minute he started acting a fool. Why? Okay? Could that person have been possessed by a spirit? See, let me tell you something. Once you take yourself, you can be on drugs. The zombie drug is the 2K or the bath salt. I'm going to come back to that. Let me finish about the alcohol. Once you thin out yourself or you let a foreign substance take control of yourself, spirits can hover around you, see what kind of frequency you own, see if you got the potential to go there, and will attach themselves to you. Now, depending on how strong and evil the spirit is, they say that my grandmother said the dead can't hurt you. You know what I'm saying? But I would say this, I'm not going to go against what my grandmother told me, but if that spirit lets itself onto you, it'll have you doing stuff you never thought you'd do before. And it could make you hurt yourself. It has no power, you know what I'm saying, to throw, look, man, it's been instances I know for a fact it has pushed you. It has done some things, but it will do things to you to make you hurt yourself, okay? I'm not talking about taking total control of you. I'm just saying they will affect you. If a person is doing a lot of drugs, that person is susceptible to possession of a spirit entity. If a person is a straight-up alcoholic, the more alcohol they drink, it ain't them drinking, it's the spirit that's in them that's drinking. Okay? That spirit has attached themselves to that person. And alcohol and drugs is one of the gateways to possession. Okay? Another thing, possession. something, an entity that's trying to take control of you. Sex. When a person has what we call a sex addiction, where they masturbate all the time, or they just gotta have sex, and they screwing this person, screwing this, oh, they just a nymphomaniac. Man, they could be possessed. Now this is going to be creepy, and I'm gonna go ahead and do it and say it. If you've ever had a sexual dream that was so real, you saw it, you felt it. I've had them. Back then we called them wet dreams. Oh man, you had wet dreams. Okay, that's fine. That means that it was a sexual dream that was so real. I talked to women, a lot of people that I counsel. We come up on all different subjects, and they will tell me they have these type of experiences. Okay, now here goes the thing about it. Do you know that is what we call a sex demon? And that sex demon is called an incubus. Okay? If it's a male and you're a female and you're having sex with a male and it was so real, you felt it, you might even have an orgasm. That's possibly an incubus, or what we call a sex demon, guys. If you having these dreams, it's so real, and I felt it, and I didn't want to. Something woke me up. Man, I was just going to get something. You don't even know who the person is, especially if you don't know the person. Now, having a dream about a person you know, it might be different, maybe, but that's actually what we call an incubus or a succubus. An incubus for a man that's visiting a woman, and a succubus for a woman. These are what we call sex demons. These are entities, especially if you're having them. You've had them enough times to know it throughout your life. Man, I had another dream. I had another red dream. It was so real. That's an incubus. That's a spirit. Okay? What we call sex demons. Those are spirits. Okay? Be aware of that. And I'm going to tell you later on what you can do. If I don't get to that, then I'm definitely got to do a show. Tell me that you want them to get into cleansings. I could do a show on cleansings itself. It'll probably take about 30 minutes to do. Moving along. These are possessions. This is what we're on right now, possession. Something that has taken control of you. Okay? It's kind of freaky. You know what I'm saying? What is sensitive to these things? You ever seen a baby, and the baby is a newborn baby? They're newborn, and they in the corner laughing and talking. And you come in there, and you be like, baby, what you laughing at? What do you think that baby is seeing? Children can see because they're still sensitive. They just came from somewhere. Okay, you got to understand that this is a soul that's just incarnated into a child. The child is trying to communicate. It can't communicate through words, but it can point, it can laugh, or it can start crying. Children can see into the other world because they're still sensitive. Children are very psychic and have these abilities later on. We all had it later on as we grow older. After 7, they say, you start to grow out of it. But in the early years of a child is very sensitive to spirits, animals. If that dog starts barking, you can already tell there's something wrong with the man or the woman at the door. If a child starts crying, you got a sweet baby, and that baby will go to anybody, and this, oh, can I hold a baby? And that baby start hollering and crying. There's something about that person, okay? Cats. Why is the black cat? The cat can see into the other world. The cat, folklore, 9 lives. In the ancient temples of the priests and priestesses, the cats will be guarding the temple, or they will always be around the temples because cats can see into the other world. That's why the cat comes later on as associated with the witch, or the woman that is doing the spell, the pagan, the earth mother, because that's all a witch is. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that they're worshiping the devil, or that's something that the Roman Catholic Church put out later on. The cat gets associated with the witch because the cat can see into the other realms. So pay attention to that. If you got animals and the animals start acting weird in the house, that's possibly the animal is picking up on some type of paranormal activity. Okay? Going back to the incubus and the succubus. Okay? These are entities that can possess you. Pay attention to someone who starts acting erratic. I'm not saying somebody alcoholic, you know what I'm saying, or like to drink a lot, you know, they possessed by alcohol. But I'm telling you that the more you drink, the more I'm talking about you become an addict. Either it's already latched on to you or you're heading down that road. They're going to latch on to you or they've already latched on to you, these spirits, okay? I want to talk about zombies right quick. Zombies are in folklore right now. Walking Dead. That's that. And people say, man, there's no such thing as no zombie. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you something. Go Google zombie attacks. Go Google zombie attacks. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. There was a man in Florida who got butt naked, ran out in the house, jumped on a man that was jogging down the sidewalk. Everybody, it was on the news. People took film of it and everything. And this man actually jumped on this man and started biting this man's face off. They called the police. He was butt naked attacking this man, biting chunks of his face off. When the police got there, the man growled at the police officers. The police officers shot the man. The man kept on eating until they shot him in the head. How do you kill a zombie? You got to shoot him in the head. And that's just one case. There's cases all over the world of people being attacked, eaten. There was a guy in Waco, Texas, that was chewing on a dog. There's another case up north where a person was eating on a baby. There's another case where a person cut off their livers, their girlfriend's lips and was eating them. What's causing this? Why do they keep showing you zombie movies and zombie apocalypse movies? Now I'm going to go into the K2 or the synthetic bath salts. You can Google YouTube, go to YouTube. They call it Waka. They call it bath salts. They call it K2. It's synthetic weed you can buy. Some places they banned it, but you can smoke that stuff. It's synthetic. It gets you high, but it takes you up and it leaves you. But it also brings about very dark, demonic tendencies. Go to YouTube and type in designer drug attack or K2 attack. I saw a white girl that was speaking in a language. She was writing backwards, and she was talking about demons. This white girl was a cheerleader. She never got any trouble. She started taking this synthetic drug, and she went absolutely black and demonic. Okay? You got to understand that the zombie apocalypse thing ain't nothing but taking a strand of DNA or some type of outbreak happening. It produces violent tendencies. It makes you jump on people and try to bite on them. And if that's multiplied over 1 million, there go your zombies right there. Kind of freaky. Why do you think these people are prepping and getting water and food? They'll tell you, oh, we think the end of the world coming or Armageddon or we're going to be attacked. Some people are actually prepping, buying guns, ammunition because they fear a zombie apocalypse. Moving along. Getting ready to wrap it up. Now I want to get into how do you communicate with spirits. I want to mention the Ouija board for a minute, okay? Ouija board's been around a long time. You can communicate. Back in the days, they had something called a seance, where people would come to someone's living room, go to the basement, break out cards, start reading tarot cards, and they would light candles, do ritual work, meaning they would put themselves into a trance, candlelight, incense, whatever you got to do to get yourself there. The person that's leading the seance will go into a trance, and now you'll see them on the movies. The spirit of John Brown, are you here? Communicate with me. And something starts tapping on the table or raising the table up. This person is now in a trance-like state and communicating with spirit. Everyone can't do that. So what they did was they came out with a board game called the Ouija board. The Ouija board's been out for years, probably going back to the 40s and 50s, okay? When it came out, it's got letters, it got numbers, and this is where you and your friends sit around and y'all play with this Ouija board. Quick ghost story. A friend of mine I used to teach, she passed away. You know what I'm saying? But she told me we would get into talks about the occult and spirituality and said, I play with Ouija boards. Possession. Watched a lot of scary movies, okay? That's a no-no. Church sanctified people tell you, don't be bringing that stuff in your house. Some of you love scary movies. I'm just telling you. Some say you shouldn't watch it because it actually opens you up, especially if you watch them. But she would watch them all the time. And not only would she watch them, she played with the Ouija board. One night she was playing with the Ouija board and she started talking to a relative of hers. They freaked out. They stopped moving. It moved on its own. Y-E-S. Yes, all you hear. Move the board with your fingertips. You're not pushing the board. You're letting the board move itself. You put your hands on the board. You put your hands on the reader, and that reader really, you loosen up and you let the reader move, and you barely touching it, and that thing will start going to J. Who is it? J. A. M. E. S. James. You write that down. James, the spirit is trying to communicate with you. The only thing about the Ouija board, who you think you're talking to, you might not be talking to. Because, let me say this, when these spirits, when they begin to come in, they bump and they fight who's going to talk. You know what I'm saying? They bump and fight, and they everybody try to communicate because guess what? These persons, they playing with it. You know what I'm saying? So this is my chance to say something right quick. So I'm not telling you don't play with the Ouija board. If you want to play with the Ouija board, you play with the Ouija board. That's fine. But one night, going back to the story, she wanted to play with the Ouija board. And all of a sudden, the Ouija board moved. They ran downstairs. And when they came back up, the spirit asked them, are you okay? I saw what happened. They were like, what you mean? We saw you when you almost fell down the stairs. Are you okay? She's telling me this. And she's like, and they said, how could you see? How could you see that? The board was upstairs. The spirit told them, I saw them through the dog's eyes. So the spirit done, look, man, let me say this. You don't understand what you're dealing with, okay? You don't understand what you're dealing with. A lot of this stuff, you better be very careful with it. What you entertain, the games you play. There was some kind of game, I can't think of it, where it's a Mexican demon, and you use these pencils. It's all on YouTube, and they're calling on this little demon name, and the demon is making the pencils and stuff move. Okay, you do not understand the forces that you're opening up once you start opening up these channels and these mediums, because you think you're talking to your loved ones, and these other things will start coming through, okay? Real quick before I leave, let me give you something, and I'm going to give you the basis of it. If you ever feel like you have a lot of activity, and again, some of you do, some of you are psychic, some of you are empath, you're not alone and you're not crazy. Just because other people can't see it don't mean it's not there. But if you ever feel like you've got a lot of activity in your house, what you could do is take some salt, some regular table salt, or some sea salt would be even better. And you can take that salt and you can put that salt in the corners of your house. Okay? The spirits don't like crossing it. Another thing is mirrors. The vampire don't like to see herself in the mirror. That's true. Spirits don't like to see themselves in the mirror because the mirrors lets them see themselves, or they can't see themselves, so they realize that they're not alive anymore. So they don't like crossing mirrors. I got a friend of mine that's an empath. She has a mirror. Go to an old person's house. Sometimes back in the day, you would see a mirror right in the threshold. When you come to the house, the mirror was right there close to the door. It actually keeps them there a lot of times because they don't want to cross over. Salt, corners of your house, smudging. Get off in the smudging. Go get you something to smudge. Get you a feather and get you some Man, I'm going blank right now. Get you some, I hate when I go blank. Get you some, well, anyway, smudge your hive. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about because I can't think of it, reach out to me and I'll give it to you. Cleanse your house, okay? If you feel like there is a lot of activity in your home, get with someone who knows how to do your house. Most of the time, guys, when you're buying a new house, get your house blessed. Get your apartment blessed. I just told you earlier, if you didn't hear this, the story about my neighbor who died in her apartment. I actually saw the people come get her. The police was here and the EMS. She died. I know she died. But she was still in my apartment and my neighbors had got in, okay? These apartments and houses need to be cleansed and blessed before you come up in there. Because, again, these spirits, you're coming into their dwelling, okay? There's a way to do it. We're going to go into that the next time we have a show. So I've told you what spirits are. I gave you the origins of it. I've talked about possession. This show was a very, you know what I'm saying? It's a Halloween special, but I gave you a lot to think about, especially when you're talking about paranormal activity, the spirit world. It's indeed alive and well, and what we must do is learn how to work with these realms, okay? We got to learn how to work with the spirit world because, again, we're on a third dimension, and these are different things that's coming in and out of this earth plane dimension, more than what you know, more than what you see. I like this show. I think I dropped some jewels. I want to do a part 2, and it doesn't have to be Halloween for me to do this show. I just want to do the first one on Halloween. You got any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'm on there with Whole Mind, Body, and Soul. Look for us on Facebook. Look for me, Lawrence Coutee, and get with me, and we'll go over some things, spiritual counseling, and we can also do some cleansing. We're going to do another show later on about how to communicate and work with spirit. We didn't get into that tonight because I wanted to really get out to the deep stuff. But the next show we're going to pick right back up, and we're going to talk about how to communicate with those because it's not bad. It's really it's nothing wrong with communicating with spirits, especially your loved ones, should I say? Nobody ain't trying to communicate with. I can't do that. I'm not a psychic like that to do that. But we're going to talk about communicating with your ancestors. We'll get into some of the African religions, the Yoruba, the voodoo, the voodoo. We'll break down that mystique of that, but really get into the ancestral homage. Okay. With that being said, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the Halloween special. Look for us back again next Thursday. Mr. Lawrence Coutee will be coming back on next Thursday. We're going to be talking about relationships, sex. We're going to be getting off into the power of the woman, the power of relationships. We'll get into the tantra and the sex magic and all that good stuff next Thursday. Same time, same place. And thank you all for listening. You guys have a fun and safe Halloween. And I'm going to leave you like I always greet you. I give you love, peace, and light. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
You have been listening to the Get Global Network podcast of Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, hosted by Lawrence Coutee. You can hear Whole Mind, Body, and Soul Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific Time on Yessurr-FM, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network. Listen to Yessurr-FM and other member stations of the Get Global Network on the go by installing any of the Get Global Network apps, like So Metro Magazine, Grassroots Salute, Agtown Nation, or Big Red Radio Nation for your cell phone. The apps are available for download on both Google Play and iTunes app stores. Take the time to subscribe to our podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or the Spreaker Podcast Network.